In the heart of the galaxy, where stars burned blue and gold, stood the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. It was a structure made of transparent crystal and shimmering metal, floating between the twin suns of Nethra Prime. Inside sat hundreds of alien leaders, creatures of every kind and color, each representing a world, a system, a species that believed itself wise. The air shimmered with the hum of technology older than most civilizations, and in the center of the hall, a massive hologram rotated slowly, showing a single blue planet. Earth. The humans, hissed the speaker, a tall, reptilian figure whose scales reflected the light like armor. They advanced too quickly. In less than 2 centuries, they've gone from planetary infancy to warp-level experimentation. They build weapons that disturb the balance. The council chamber buzzed with murmurs. They are emotional, impulsive, said one insectoid representative, its wings twitching. They act without considering the consequences. They have no place at the council, another alien added, his voice echoing like metal scraping stone. They are dangerous. The speaker raised a hand, silencing the crowd. A transmission was received from their world, he said. The hologram shifted, revealing a human figure standing against a backdrop of the blue planet and its moon. The message was simple, calm, respectful, but firm. We know you're watching. We know you see our progress. But we ask one thing only: do not approach our system. Do not interfere. Leave humanity in peace. The council laughed. Some mocked the way humans spoke. Others called the message arrogant. They think they can tell us where to go, one alien sneered. They're a minor species, barely post-warp. They should be grateful we even acknowledge them, another said. Let them bark their warnings. We'll send peacekeepers and remind them who rules the stars. The speaker nodded slowly, his expression cold. Then it's agreed. The human system will be placed under observation. We'll send a fleet to orbit their homeworld and ensure they remain contained. The vote was swift. Every light around the circular chamber turned red. Approval. The decision was made. Earth's request for peace was denied. The fleet departed within the week. Hundreds of ships from the most powerful races in the galaxy gathered at the outer edges of human space. Commanders laughed, confident in their superiority. To them, humanity was nothing but noise, a young civilization too proud for its own good. But as their ships crossed into the outer system, strange things began to happen. It started with flickers on their scanners. Blips that appeared and vanished in the void. Gravity waves that shouldn't exist. Instruments went dark for seconds at a time, then returned, showing impossible readings. Command, our sensors just picked up an energy surge from Pluto's orbit, one ship reported. Repeat that? The admiral asked. There's nothing there. The crew checked again, but the readings were gone. System glitch, the admiral said, dismissing it. Continue toward the third planet. The fleet moved closer, engines glowing against the darkness. But one ship, a scout ahead of the formation, suddenly disappeared from radar. Scout 12, report, the command ship called. No response. Only static. Then, for a fraction of a second, an image appeared on the communication screen. A blurred vision of a black surface reflecting starlight, and a voice whispering, "We warned you." The image cut off instantly. Probably a malfunction, the admiral muttered, though unease crept into his voice. Proceed. The alien fleet continued, now slower, sensors straining to pierce through a strange electromagnetic haze that had begun to spread across the solar system's edge. Sir, an officer said, we're detecting multiple objects moving near Neptune's orbit. Ships. Unknown. Their signatures don't match anything in the registry. Broadcast to them. Identify us as council observers. A message was sent. No reply. The objects moved silently, almost drifting. But when one ship magnified its visuals, the officers went pale. The shapes weren't natural. They were ships, massive, black, and built with angles that hurt the eyes to look at. No visible engines. No energy signatures. They simply hovered, waiting. Who built those? Someone whispered. They don't look human. But deep down, the commander knew the truth. Humanity's silence wasn't weakness, it was preparation. The council fleet stopped, uncertain. Should we engage? A captain asked. Negative, the admiral said quickly. We'll send a signal to the council first. In the grand chamber of Prime, the speaker sat watching the transmission feed. The alien fleet's formation was displayed on the hologram, a brilliant pattern of lights against the void. Proceed to orbit, he commanded. Show them that the galaxy doesn't bow to threats. The command was transmitted. The alien fleet pushed forward again, engines burning brighter. But as they entered the orbit of Uranus, all readings went dark. Every ship in the formation suddenly stopped transmitting. We've lost contact, shouted a technician in the chamber. Re-establish signal. The hologram flickered. Static filled the air. Then, silence. What happened? Asked the speaker. Solar interference. Negative, the technician said. It's something else. We're detecting gravitational distortions spreading from the human system outward. The room grew colder. How far? Expanding at light speed. We estimate it'll reach our nearest outpost in 12 hours. The speaker froze. That's impossible. No weapon can. He was cut off as the lights dimmed. The massive holographic display glitched, showing fragments of data. In one corner of the display, a faint signal pulsed, an audio file from one of the missing ships. The speaker played it. A voice echoed through the hall. Human. Calm. We asked you to leave us in peace. Then the feed ended. Across the galaxy, panic began to spread. The council ordered new fleets to gather, but communication failures multiplied. Outposts near Sol stopped responding. Colonies went dark. Space itself seemed to twist around that blue planet, as if the stars near Earth were trembling. The council tried to hide the truth from the public, but whispers spread quickly. Some called it a new weapon. Others said Earth had made contact with something ancient. In the chamber of the speaker, the alien leaders gathered once more. We must attack. One shouted. If we don't, they'll think us weak. You already attacked, another hissed. And your fleet never returned. The speaker slammed his clawed hand against the table. Silence. We will send reinforcements. Twice the size of the first fleet. Humanity cannot challenge the council. But his words lacked conviction. Every report that came in told the same story. Ships disappearing, stars flickering, unknown energy readings spreading outward from the solar system like ripples in water. And in the dark, hidden beyond the orbit of Saturn, Earth's silence deepened. No human signals, no transmissions, not even radio waves. It was as if the planet itself had vanished. Yet telescopes still showed it, bright, blue, alive. But even light seemed slower near it now. Some scientists whispered that time itself bent around Earth. Others feared something worse. In the cold void near Neptune, the second council fleet gathered, 3 times larger than the first. Tens of thousands of ships armed with plasma cannons, photon lances, and stellar torpedoes. They were ready to erase Earth from existence. For the balance of the galaxy, the new admiral declared, we will burn them to dust. The fleet advanced. But as they entered human space, something began to whisper through their comms. Voices. Not human voices, echoes. Words layered on top of each other, forming strange patterns. Do not enter, leave, interference, the admiral snapped. Ignore it. But the whispers grew louder, until every crew member heard them not in their ears, but in their minds. Then, one by one, the stars around them began to flicker. The light dimmed. The darkness grew thicker. And from the shadow between 2 distant planets, something emerged. Not a ship. Not a weapon. A field, vast, shimmering, alive. It expanded silently, touching the first few ships. Instantly, their engines died. Their systems froze. The crew screamed as their ships crumbled, pulled apart molecule by molecule into the glowing field. Retreat! The admiral shouted. All ships retreat. But it was too late. The energy field expanded faster than light, swallowing the fleet whole. From the observation station on Nethra Prime, the scientists watched as a red glow appeared near Sol. "What is that?" one whispered. "A new star." "No," another said slowly, horror in his voice. "That's not a star. That's their warning." On the Council's main display, the image of the solar system glowed red for a moment, then turned black. A silence filled the chamber. Every leader stared at the projection, unable to speak. And then, for just a moment, a single transmission appeared on the central screen. It was an image of Earth, surrounded by a faint, fiery halo. Text scrolled beneath it, in human language but instantly translated by their systems. "We asked for peace. You chose war." The message flickered once, then vanished. The speaker stood frozen. Around him, panic spread like wildfire. Some called for war, others screamed for retreat. But deep in his heart, he felt something the Council had never felt before. Fear. Humanity had gone silent, and the silence was far louder than war. The Galactic Council's second fleet was the largest ever assembled in the known universe. It stretched across the void like a moving wall of light, a storm of metal and pride. Over 100,000 warships, from the sleek vessels of the Zyrax Dominion to the heavy dreadnoughts of the Varn Coalition, aligned under a single banner, the authority of the Council. The speaker himself stood in the observation chamber of the flagship Eternal Sovereign, watching the fleet's departure from the great hangars of Nethra Prime. Below him, the twin suns burned fiercely, as if warning him of something. But arrogance is louder than caution. "When this operation ends," he said to his generals, "the humans will remember their place." Around him, holo-displays shimmered with images of Earth's solar system, their ships forming tactical formations along the orbital paths of Pluto and Neptune. "Their silence is not peace," one general said. "It's fear." Or perhaps, the speaker replied coldly, "it's ignorance." The fleet entered hyperspace, the stars stretching into lines as thousands of engines tore open space itself. In moments, the galaxy's most powerful armada vanished into the darkness, bound for the little blue world that had dared to defy them. Days later, the fleet exited hyperspace near the outer edge of the solar system. Before them hung Neptune, its cold blue surface swirling with storms. Around it, faint distortions shimmered, like ripples in glass. "All ships, hold formation," commanded Admiral Tress, a towering insectoid creature with mandibles that clicked as he spoke. "Activate scanners. Search for human vessels." The sensors pulsed. No response. No ships, no satellites, no transmissions. Only silence. "Strange," said one officer. "Our scans show nothing beyond normal planetary interference." "Impossible," Tress muttered. "They have a fleet. Every race has a fleet." But their sensors picked up only static. Across the armada, captains grew uneasy. The silence of space was normal, but this wasn't silence. It was absence. The kind that made your skin crawl. "Command," a voice broke through the comms. "This is the scout ship Zephyr. We're detecting massive gravitational fluctuations ahead, near the orbit of Uranus." "Define massive," the admiral said. "Enough to distort our long-range scanners. It's like space itself is bending." "Any signs of life?" "None. But the readings don't match anything in our database." The admiral turned toward his science officer. "Could this be human technology?" The officer hesitated. "If it is, it's beyond anything we've seen." The admiral gave a low growl. "Continue the approach." The fleet advanced slowly, weapons powered and shields active. Ships glided in perfect formation, their lights glowing against the dark. But one by one, small things began to fail. A ship's navigation went offline for 5 seconds, then came back on. Another vessel lost contact with its escorts. "Admiral," a technician reported nervously, "something's wrong with the beacon signals. They're looping." "Looping?" "Yes, sir. Our coordinates keep resetting. It's like we're flying in circles." "Impossible. That's a human system. They can't manipulate our His voice cut off when every ship's communication panel flickered. Static filled the air. Then, through the noise, came a voice. Calm. Human. You shouldn't have come. The Admiral's mandibles froze. Identify that transmission. Source unknown, sir. It's coming from everywhere. The voice spoke again. Leave this place. Last warning. Jam the frequency, he shouted. All ships prepare to, and then the stars disappeared. Every window, every sensor, every radar showed nothing but blackness. The twin suns of the nearby system vanished. The fleet floated in a void. Lights flickered across thousands of ships, alarms blaring. We've lost visual. I can't detect our own engines. Something's draining the energy. The Admiral's claws gripped the console. Reactivate systems. Immediately. One by one, emergency lights came back online. The view outside returned, but it wasn't space anymore. It was a field. A shimmering, red-tinted expanse that pulsed like a heartbeat. The stars looked distorted, bent like they were being pulled into it. And at the center of it all was a sphere of light. It wasn't a planet or a ship. It was something alive. Admiral, whispered the science officer, it's emitting quantum radiation across every spectrum. That's impossible. It's absorbing energy from the surrounding space. Destroy it, the Admiral ordered. All ships, fire. Thousands of cannons lit up the void, firing beams of plasma, antimatter shells, and photon bursts. The red sphere flared, taking the full impact. The void trembled, waves of light rippling across the fleet. For a moment, silence. Then, the sphere expanded. It didn't explode. It unfolded. Beams of red and blue energy stretched outward like veins of light, touching the nearest ships. And those ships stopped existing. Not destroyed. Not shattered. Just erased. Their signals vanished. Their coordinates disappeared. Space folded where they stood, as if the universe had swallowed them whole. Panic erupted. Retreat, the Admiral screamed. All ships fall back to Neptune orbit. Engines flared as the formation broke apart. But the field was faster. It spread like a living wave, consuming everything in its path. We're losing ships. It's gaining speed. The energy field is rewriting our trajectory. The Admiral slammed his claws into the control panel. Transmit to the Council, now. Transmitting, sir. The message reached Nethra Prime 20 minutes later. The speaker and his council watched the feed in horror. The holographic projection showed the fleet falling apart, ships twisting into streaks of light before vanishing completely. The Admiral's final transmission echoed through the chamber. They warned us. You didn't listen. Tell the others. The stars are screaming. Then the signal ended. The chamber fell into dead silence. For the first time in its 1,000-year history, the council didn't know what to say. The speaker turned slowly to his aides. Was that real? Yes, sir, the technician whispered. All data confirms it. The fleet is gone. Gone where? Nowhere, came the quiet reply. There is no debris, no trace. It's as if space erased them. The speaker's face turned pale. He leaned on the railing, breathing heavily. What could they have built? But no one answered. Across the galaxy, panic spread faster than light. Member species locked their borders, fearing Earth's unknown power. Entire sectors stopped communicating. And through the silence of the void, the faint pulse of that red sphere continued to grow, expanding outward from the solar system like a heartbeat. At its center, Earth rotated calmly beneath its clouds, untouched, unmoving, its oceans glimmering blue. No fleets defended it. No armies stood guard. Yet no one dared to approach. In one of Earth's secret lunar bases, a lone human commander stood watching through a reinforced viewport. Below him, the planet shone against the blackness of space. Status, he asked softly. All alien vessels neutralized, replied the AI beside him. The system remains secured. No survivors detected. Good, he said, his expression calm. Send a message. To whom? To everyone. The AI paused. Message content. The man turned toward the stars, eyes cold as steel. The council believed silence meant weakness. Let them learn what silence really means. The AI transmitted the signal, not words, not sound, but energy. A pulse that rippled across the void, touching every known channel, every star network. Across the galaxy, communication systems lit up. The message repeated in every language, on every screen, in one simple sentence: Earth does not speak twice. On Nethra Prime, the speaker watched in terror as the same words appeared on his console, burning in bright blue light. It's them, someone whispered. They're responding. The speaker stared at the message, trembling. For the first time in galactic history, the most powerful council in existence had been silenced by a single planet. He turned to his advisors, his voice breaking. We thought we were gods. He looked out the window, where the twin suns of Nethra Prime flickered for a moment, as if something far away had touched even their light. But now, he whispered, I think we've awakened one. Across the galaxy, panic had turned into obsession. The Council's fleets had vanished, their signals erased, their debris gone. Scientists from 100 worlds worked day and night trying to understand what had happened near the human system. But the data made no sense. The gravitational charts showed ripples spreading from Sol outward, perfectly circular waves moving faster than light. Stars flickered and dimmed as the waves passed through them, and entire constellations began to fade from the night skies of distant colonies. The Speaker of the Council stood inside the observatory of Nethra Prime, staring out at the twin suns. One of them was flickering. Is it dying? He asked quietly. No, sir, said the head astrophysicist. It's reacting. Reacting to what? The scientist hesitated. To Earth. The speaker turned sharply. That's impossible. So is everything we've seen, the scientist whispered. The light from Sol has changed frequency. It's not just energy anymore. It's data. The star is transmitting something. The speaker frowned. Transmitting what? We don't know. But it's not random. Every wavelength forms a pattern. It's like a heartbeat. The chamber fell silent. Across every sector, astronomers began reporting the same thing. Light itself was vanishing. Stars that had burned for billions of years suddenly dimmed, their radiation weakening. On the edge of the Andros belt, an entire mining colony woke to find their sun half as bright as the day before. Panic spread. Ships tried to flee, but their navigation failed, their drives refusing to engage. Space around them bent like heat haze. And when rescue ships arrived days later, the colony was gone. No wreckage, no debris, only a faint pulse of red light in the void where the sun had been. Another disappearance, the report said. Another system gone dark. In the council chamber, fear turned into denial. It can't be Earth, one senator shouted. They don't have that kind of power. Then where are our fleets? Another snapped. Where are the colonies near Sol? Where are the outposts we sent? The speaker slammed his fist against the table. Enough. We will not descend into panic. Prepare another fleet. 10 times larger if needed. There's nothing left to fight, said a voice from the back. It was Admiral Hiron, one of the few survivors from the outer monitoring stations. His ship had escaped the first wave by hiding in the shadow of a dead moon. His eyes were hollow, his voice cold. I saw it happen, he said. They didn't use weapons. They used light. Our ships were undone by their own reflections. Every time we fired, the energy came back stronger. We couldn't even run. Space itself bent. Are you saying humans control gravity? Someone asked. No, Hiron replied. They control reality. The chamber erupted in disbelief, but the Admiral's expression never changed. We thought we understood war, he said quietly. But they're not fighting. They're cleansing. The speaker leaned forward. What do you mean? Hiron looked at him with haunted eyes. They warned us. We ignored them. Now they're removing anything that doesn't listen. At that moment, the lights flickered. The great hall dimmed as every hologram distorted into static. A technician ran in, pale with fear. "Sir, you need to see this." The walls of the chamber shifted to transparent mode, showing the twin suns outside. One of them, the smaller star, pulsed red, then black. Its light went out completely. "It's gone," someone whispered. The scientist shook his head. "No, not gone. Its light was taken." The speaker turned, voice shaking. "Taken where?" "To Earth," the scientist said. "Our instruments show its radiation bending toward their system, as if drawn by a magnet." "That's impossible," the speaker roared. "Stars don't move." "They do now," the scientist whispered. Humanity changed the rules. The council chamber fell silent. For the first time, the galaxy realized it was no longer governed by physics, but by something far older and far more dangerous. In the deep void near Sol, hidden behind the shadow of Jupiter, the human fleet waited. Black ships drifted silently in formation, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. Their hulls shimmered with faint blue patterns, like constellations etched in motion. At the center of them all floated the ship Erebus, command vessel of the Solar Defense Directorate. Inside, Commander Orin Vale stood before a massive window, watching the faint glow of Earth in the distance. It looked peaceful, too peaceful for what it had become. "Status of containment?" he asked. "Stable," replied the AI, its voice low and steady. "The photon barrier extends beyond Neptune's orbit. No unauthorized light enters or leaves the system." "Good," Orin said quietly. "And the outer defense?" "All Council fleets have been neutralized. Their systems have been integrated into the solar net." "Integrated?" "Yes," the AI replied. "Their ships are now part of the defense matrix. Energy harvested, memory preserved." Orin looked out again at the stars. "They ignored us," he said softly. "They saw our warnings as weakness." The AI paused. "And now?" "Now," Orin whispered, "they will learn what patience costs." Outside, the stars shifted. Around the solar system, faint red rings of energy expanded outward, not weapons, but waves. Each one rippled across the galaxy, bending the flow of light itself. Entire constellations dimmed, galaxies blurred, and across thousands of worlds, people looked up to find their skies changing. On Nethra Prime, the remaining sun pulsed faintly. "We're losing power," shouted a technician. "Communications are failing." "What's happening?" the speaker demanded. "The light," the scientist said again, trembling. "It's leaving us." "Leaving?" "Yes," he said, staring in disbelief. "The photons themselves are being pulled toward Sol. Humanity is stealing starlight." "Why?" someone shouted. "What possible reason?" "Because they warned us," the scientist interrupted, voice breaking. "And we didn't listen." The speaker turned back toward the window, his reflection pale and hollow. Beyond the glass, the last rays of his dying sun stretched thin, bending like threads toward a single point in space, Earth. It glowed faintly in the distance, surrounded by a halo of captured light. In that moment, the speaker finally understood. The humans hadn't gone silent out of fear. They had gone silent to prepare. Every planet they colonized, every experiment they conducted, every satellite they built, it had all been for this. Not to destroy the galaxy, but to remove it from their skies. "They are cutting us off," he whispered. "From the universe itself." The scientist nodded slowly. "They don't need our stars anymore. They have their own." Far away, deep within the core of the solar system, a new sun ignited, a sphere of contained fusion brighter than anything ever built. The human-made star burned with white light, feeding on energy pulled from distant systems. It powered their cities, their fleets, their weapons, and their silence. The galaxy dimmed, and Earth glowed brighter. On one dying world, a child looked up at a fading sky and asked, "Why is the night empty?" His father, an old soldier who had once served the council, whispered, "Because we mocked the ones who gave it light." The stars trembled, and humanity's message burned across the darkness. Not spoken, not transmitted, but written in the sky itself. When Earth is silent, the universe should listen. In the blackness of the void, where stars once shone bright, silence ruled. But deep inside the solar system, something was stirring. Something alive, ancient, and unstoppable. Earth, the small blue planet that the Galactic Council had mocked for centuries, had awakened. Every satellite, every orbital station, every fragment of technology around it pulsed with the same rhythm, the heartbeat of humanity. At the core of this pulse, within a network of underground cities and space stations, humanity's true fleet prepared for release. For years, they had hidden their strength under layers of silence. They had built weapons not of war, but of endurance, machines designed to turn defense into annihilation. When the Council had mocked them, humanity had smiled. When the fleets surrounded their system, they had waited. And when their stars began to dim, they had simply adapted. Now, patience was over. The voice of Earth rose not through sound, but through action. At the center of the moon's dark side, a massive structure began to unfold. Plates of silver metal expanded, glowing faintly with blue light. It wasn't a weapon. It was something far more terrifying. A transmitter, one large enough to shake the fabric of space. As it activated, energy waves shot outward, striking every planet in the solar system. The Earth's oceans glowed faintly, absorbing and redirecting the signal. Mars's surface lit up with geometric lines, ancient colonies reawakening. Even Jupiter's storms pulsed with light as its atmosphere was tapped for energy. Humanity had turned its entire system into a weapon. Power levels rising, said Commander Orenvale aboard the flagship Erebus. All stations synchronized. The Ari's voice echoed through the dark command deck. The array is ready. Oren looked out the viewport, his reflection cast against the glowing curve of Earth. Begin the awakening, he said. And then, for the first time in galactic history, the stars screamed. From Neptune's orbit, space rippled like water. Thousands of black ships emerged in perfect formation, their hulls absorbing all light. They made no sound, no broadcast, no signal of war, only movement. The human fleet drifted forward, silent as the grave, engines glowing with soft blue fire. Across the galaxy, sensors from surviving Council outposts began to detect it. Unidentified fleet detected, one report said. Mass unknown. Configuration, human. Panic spread through the Council remnants. How many ships? Thousands, replied the analyst. Maybe tens of thousands. And they're cloaked. The Speaker of the Council stared at the holographic projection. Where are they heading? Everywhere, the analyst whispered. They're dividing into groups. Each one is targeting a Council world. Within hours, the sky above 100 planets filled with light. The first strike hit the Zyrax homeworld, a planet known for its arrogance and cruelty. The people looked up to see their twin moons suddenly eclipsed by black spheres descending through the clouds. At first, they thought it was debris. Then the sky turned red. Human ships unleashed beams of light so intense that oceans boiled in seconds. But it wasn't chaos. It was precision. Cities vanished without explosions, only silence. The Zyrax screamed into their comms for help, but their signals vanished into static. The same scene repeated across the stars. On the Varn stronghold world, battle stations opened fire on the human fleet, launching plasma torpedoes and kinetic rounds. Every missile vanished mid-flight, caught in invisible gravity fields. Then the human ships retaliated, but their weapons didn't fire projectiles. They fired light. Coherent energy compressed into matter, piercing through planetary shields as if they were glass. One shot. One world. Gone. The Council's fleets tried to defend, but it was like fighting shadows. Human ships phased in and out of detection, using warp-fold maneuvers so advanced they seemed like teleportation. They're everywhere, cried an alien commander as his bridge shook. They're rewriting space itself. No, whispered his second officer, staring at the human vessels through the viewport. They're rewriting us. On Nethraprime, The council watched helplessly as their defense network failed one planet after another. The speaker stood pale and silent. "Open a channel," he ordered finally. "We must talk to them. There must be reason left." The communications officers tried. "No response," one said. "Try again." "Still nothing," the officer said, his voice trembling. "They're blocking every frequency." "Then broadcast in the open," the speaker said. "Maybe they'll hear us." Across the galaxy, a desperate transmission went out. "To the people of Earth, this is the Galactic Council. We request," but the message was cut short by static. Then, across every frequency, a single voice replied. "Calm, cold, human. You were warned." The words echoed across space, heard on every world, every ship, every screen. And then, from the blackness of the void, came the second wave. Humanity's drones, countless black machines shaped like shards of light, spread across the galaxy. They moved silently, attaching to satellites, draining power grids, erasing archives. Every planet under Council control lost its technology within hours. Weapons shut down. Communications failed. Starships fell from orbit. The galaxy's great empires, which had once ruled through fear, now stood powerless before a species they had underestimated. On the bridge of the Erebus, Orin Vale watched as the tactical map filled with red markers, each one representing a Council world going dark. "Targets neutralized," the AI reported. "Collateral minimal. Directive complete." "Good," he said quietly. "No unnecessary destruction. Just memory." He turned toward the viewport, watching the faint glow of Earth's artificial sun. "They wanted dominance," he said. "We wanted peace. Now they'll know the difference." "Incoming transmission," the AI said suddenly. "From the Council flagship." Orin hesitated, then nodded. "Patch it through." The image of the speaker appeared, his face pale, his voice trembling. "Please, stop this. We were wrong." Orin said nothing. The speaker continued desperately. "We didn't understand. We thought your message was pride. We didn't know you had become this." Orin's eyes were cold. "We didn't become this," he said softly. "You made us this." The speaker's voice broke. "Please. Mercy." Orin stepped closer to the screen. "Mercy was the first thing we offered," he said. "You called it weakness." The transmission cut off. Across Prime, the sky turned red as light bent across the atmosphere. The speaker looked out from his palace one last time and saw something impossible. Stars falling from the sky like rain. He realized too late they weren't stars. They were ships. Human ships. The fleet descended, silent and precise, surrounding the planet like a cage of light. The last thing the Council ever saw was the reflection of their twin suns bending around a massive black structure in orbit. The Erebus, humanity's flagship. And then, silence. No explosion. No scream. Just the light folding inward, swallowing the planet whole. From a distance, Prime vanished like dust in the wind. Across the galaxy, the stars flickered one last time before stabilizing. The silence that followed was pure, final, and eternal. Humanity didn't celebrate. There was no cheer, no pride, only quiet resolve. On the Erebus, Orin Vale closed his eyes. "All operations complete," the AI said softly. "What are your orders?" Orin turned toward Earth, glowing blue and calm in the distance. "Stand down," he said. "Let the galaxy remember the silence." The AI paused. "And if they return? Then we'll remind them again." The Galactic Council was no more. Its shining chambers that once ruled over thousands of worlds were now empty, the grand hall filled with dust and silence. The once blinding suns of Prime had dimmed to cold embers, their light bending around a void where life no longer dared to breathe. Across the galaxy, entire civilizations crumbled overnight. Communication networks that once connected millions of species were gone, erased by the human signal that swept through every channel like a silent plague. One by one, the great empires fell apart, not by war, but by fear. On the Xyrax world, once full of arrogance and noise. Their massive cities stood empty, streets littered with twisted metal and dead machines. On the Varn colony moons, ships drifted without power. Their crews vanished without a trace. Everywhere, the same message remained, etched into data walls, burned into glass, even carved into the dirt by the last survivors. We were warned. The galaxy had entered an age of darkness, an era without stars. Those who remained spoke only in whispers, afraid even to mention the name of the planet that had done this. Earth, they would say softly, as if speaking it might summon its gaze. Some believed humanity had destroyed itself after unleashing its fury, but others knew better. They had seen the light bend. They had seen the void move. Humanity hadn't vanished. They had ascended beyond what the galaxy understood. The fall of the Council wasn't loud. It didn't happen in explosions or screams. It happened in silence, the same silence that had been humanity's weapon. On the abandoned capital of Netherprime, the last surviving Council guard walked through the ruined halls. He passed shattered crystal panels, broken thrones, and walls covered in burn marks that pulsed faintly red under the dim light. At the center of the great chamber, the speaker's chair still stood, cracked and cold. The guard approached it, his claws trembling. Lying on the floor was a small metal sphere, pulsing with a faint blue glow. Curiosity overcame fear. He picked it up. The sphere unfolded like a flower, projecting a hologram into the air. A human face appeared, calm, expressionless, and utterly unafraid. To those who survive, the voice said, echoing through the empty chamber. This is not revenge. This is balance. You brought war to peace, chaos to order, pride to humility. You ignored every word we spoke. Now you will remember every silence. The projection flickered. The human looked downward, almost sad. We do not seek your destruction. We seek your understanding. But for those who cannot learn, there will be only quiet. The image faded, leaving the guard trembling in the empty hall. He dropped the sphere and ran, but as he reached the entrance, the light dimmed completely. Outside, Netherprime's atmosphere began to shift, folding inward as if the planet itself were tired. The ground cracked beneath his feet, and the stars above blurred into streaks of red and blue. The planet vanished into the void without sound. From space, it looked like dust being blown away by a cosmic wind. Across the galaxy, the same thing began to happen. Entire systems blinked out one by one, their stars collapsing into tiny points of light that folded inward toward a single invisible center, the solar system. Scientists who still lived on distant worlds recorded what they could. Gravity lines are bending, one said before his signal cut out. The galaxy itself is shifting. Everything's moving toward them. Planets, light, and time were being drawn toward the humans' creation. The artificial sun they had built to replace what the galaxy had taken. It pulsed brighter each hour, growing until even distant worlds could see it. Some civilizations fell to their knees, worshipping it as a god. Others sealed themselves underground, convinced it was the end of all things. But in the deep, some understood. They saw the patterns forming across the cosmos. The energy wasn't random. It was shaping something, a message. From every destroyed world, from every dying star, the light converged into a massive spiral across the void, forming a single image large enough to span the galactic rim. A blue sphere. Earth. Humanity had written their existence into the fabric of space itself. They are remaking the galaxy, whispered a scholar on a surviving moon. Their silence was not retreat. It was evolution. Meanwhile, on the hidden command world inside the solar system, Commander Orin Vale watched the holographic feed from across the stars. His expression remained calm as he saw the Council's last stronghold vanish into darkness. "It's done," said the AI quietly. "The Council has collapsed. The galaxy is free of their control." Orin didn't respond immediately. His gaze stayed on the faint red lines of the spiral forming across the galactic map. "Freedom," he said finally. A word they never understood. "What now?" the AI asked. Orin walked toward the viewport, staring at the artificial sun glowing near Mars. "Now," he said, "we let them rebuild. But this time, they'll do it knowing the cost of arrogance. And if they don't, then the stars will remember for them. Across the galaxy, survivors began to rebuild from the ashes. Small colonies rose again on forgotten worlds, trading without council taxes or control. For the first time in centuries, peace returned, not born of law, but of fear. No one dared send fleets towards Sol anymore. The solar system became forbidden, a ghost zone on every map. Yet still, explorers whispered of strange signals coming from there, rhythmic pulses that traveled faster than light. Those who decoded it claimed it was music. Others said it was language. One explorer described it best before vanishing into the black. It's like the heartbeat of the galaxy. And it's human. Decades later, stories of the human silence became legend. Children on alien worlds grew up hearing tales of the species that shook the stars. Monuments were built on ruins where the light had vanished, engraved with a single phrase found in every surviving archive: Earth does not speak twice. But on the far edge of space, something else stirred. A fragment of the old council, broken, vengeful, hiding among the ruins, began whispering again. They plotted revenge, dreaming of rebuilding their empire and striking back. But as their first ships left orbit, their sensors flickered. A faint signal appeared on every screen. One sentence. One memory. We are still watching. And then, silence again. The survivors froze, engines shutting down as if space itself refused to let them move. They realized it wasn't a threat. It was a reminder. Humanity didn't need to destroy anymore. They only needed to be seen. The galaxy would never test them again. On Earth, under the light of the new artificial sun, people lived quietly. Cities thrived, oceans healed, and children learned the story of the war, not as victory, but as warning. Orin Vale stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing sky, his reflection caught in the glass. "It's over," he said softly. "Finally." The eye's voice echoed behind him. "You've brought peace." Orin shook his head. "No. We've brought silence. Peace will come when they understand why." He looked up at the heavens, dim now, but alive with faint golden trails where stars once were. He smiled faintly. "We warned them," he whispered. "They just didn't listen." And above him, across the dark, the spiral of light that was once the Milky Way pulsed gently, echoing humanity's heartbeat. A promise carved into eternity that 100 years had passed since the fall of the Galactic Council. The stars were quieter now, dimmer, slower. The galaxy had rebuilt itself from the ashes, but the scars still ran deep. Planets that once shone bright now floated as hollow echoes, haunted by the silence that had consumed their ancestors. On the world of Verith Prime, a new alliance of species had risen, calling themselves the Concord of Renewal. They promised peace, trade, and equality, everything the old council had failed to deliver. But even in this new age, there was one unspoken law carved into every charter, whispered in every meeting: do not approach Sol. The solar system had become myth, a forbidden zone marked by strange gravitational anomalies and distorted time signatures. No one dared cross the invisible boundary where human silence began. That was, until the day a signal appeared. It started as a faint pulse, detected by deep space sensors near the Verith frontier. The pattern was simple, rhythmic, unmistakably structured. Scientists studied it for weeks, decoding layer after layer until the message revealed itself. Just 3 words: "We are coming." Panic spread like fire. Fleets were scrambled, defenses armed, and ancient fears reawakened. "It's them," the governors whispered. "The humans." The Concord High Council convened an emergency summit, their chambers filled with murmurs and trembling voices. "It's been a century," one of them said. "Surely they've forgotten us." "You don't forget gods," another replied. In the midst of the chaos, a light appeared in the skies of Verith Prime. It was not a fleet. It was a single ship, black, silent, and smooth like obsidian. It descended slowly through the clouds, its engines making no sound. Every defense satellite locked onto it, but none fired. They couldn't. Their systems froze the moment the ship entered the atmosphere. The vessel landed in the capital's central plaza, where thousands of citizens had gathered in terrified silence. From the ship's ramp, a figure stepped out. Humanoid, tall, wrapped in a simple gray cloak. His face was calm, his eyes like cold fire. He wore no armor, carried no weapon, yet the air around him felt heavy, like gravity itself bowed to his presence. Soldiers raised their rifles, but none dared pull the trigger. The man stopped in the center of the plaza, his voice carrying effortlessly across the crowd. "You've rebuilt," he said softly. "Good." His tone was neither kind nor cruel. It was truth, spoken with the weight of centuries. The governor of Verith Prime approached cautiously, trembling as he spoke. "Are you from Earth?" The man's gaze turned toward him. "You already know the answer." The governor swallowed hard. "Why have you come?" We mean no harm. The Concord honors your boundaries." The man tilted his head slightly, as if studying him. "Boundaries," he said. "You drew them to keep yourselves safe. But peace is not born from fear." He reached into his cloak and withdrew a small object, a crystal sphere glowing faintly blue. He placed it on the ground, and instantly the plaza was filled with light. Images projected into the air, visions of stars, worlds, and history. The rise and fall of the old council. The collapse. The silence that followed. "You forgot," he said quietly. "You forgot why this happened. You call it punishment, but it wasn't. It was correction." The images shifted again, showing the human fleet, the destruction, the light bending across galaxies. "You built new empires," the man continued, his voice echoing. "You repeated the same arrogance. You speak of peace, but your borders expand again. Your fleets grow. Your greed returns." The governors fell silent, some trembling, others bowing their heads. "We learned," one of them stammered. "We remember what happened." The man's eyes glowed faintly. "Then prove it." The light from the sphere changed, projecting a map of the galaxy. At the edge, a red zone pulsed, the frontier where the Concord's forces had been secretly expanding. "You've been preparing for war," he said coldly. "You just didn't think we'd notice." The room froze. The governors exchanged horrified looks. It's only defense." "Defense against what?" he interrupted. "The ghosts of your own guilt." His voice grew sharper, colder. "You speak of renewal, yet your actions repeat decay." He paused, then turned his gaze upward, as if looking through the sky itself. "Earth does not seek domination. We seek silence. But silence does not mean blindness." The sky above Verith darkened. Clouds swirled as if drawn by some unseen force. The citizens screamed, but the man raised his hand, and the storm froze mid-motion. Lightning hung suspended in the air, unmoving, silent. Every weapon, every engine, every communication device on the planet shut down. For a moment, the entire world stopped breathing. Then, in a voice that resonated through the clouds and into the bones of every living being, he spoke. "We gave you peace. Do not make us remind you what silence feels like." The storm vanished as quickly as it came. The sky cleared, the air still humming with static energy. The man turned back to the governor. "Tell your people this," he said. "The galaxy lives only because Earth allows it. We ask for nothing, only respect for what you do not understand." He stepped back toward his ship, the ramp lowering with a low hum. Before entering, he looked back one last time. "We do not rule you," he said softly, "but we will always watch." The ship lifted slowly, rising into the clouds without sound. As it ascended, every screen on Verith Prime flickered to life. Across every city, every home, every ship in orbit, the same message appeared, a single sentence glowing in pale white light: "We are the silence between stars." And then, the ship was gone. 4 days, the planet remained in shock. No one spoke above a whisper. Priests called it divine intervention. Scientists tried to explain it as quantum interference. But those who had seen the man's eyes knew better. Humanity had not returned to conquer. They had returned to remind. On the edge of the galaxy, Where light still dared to reach, fleets halted their drills. Diplomats burned their secret war plans. The universe held its breath once more. Back on Earth, deep beneath the glowing artificial sun, Commander Orin Vale watched the report appear on his console. "It is done," said the AI. "They remember." Orin nodded slowly. "Good. Let the galaxy live, then. And if they forget again?" Orin looked out the window at the endless stars, calm, still, obedient. "Then," he said quietly, "we'll speak again. But only once." Centuries passed. The galaxy had adapted to fear. The name Earth was spoken only in stories, whispered by old traders or carved on forgotten ruins. The silence that humanity left behind became a religion of its own. No one dared challenge it. No one dared test its boundaries. Until one day, someone did. On the far edge of the Orion expanse, a young species known as the Thren Dominion discovered something hidden inside a dying star, a fragment of old human technology. It was a black cube, pulsing faintly with blue light. Their scientists, proud and reckless, brought it to their capital and tried to unlock its secrets. "It's only a relic," they said. "The humans are gone." But the cube wasn't dead. The moment they connected it to their systems, their entire planetary network went dark. Lights flickered, data melted, and machines began to move on their own. Every monitor on the planet displayed one single phrase in every language: "You were told not to touch the silence." Then the cube stopped. Everything went quiet. For a week, nothing happened. The Thren grew bold again. They resumed their experiments, thinking it was a malfunction. But on the 8th day, their sun began to fade. At first, it dimmed slightly. Then, it turned cold, bleeding away its color until only a black sphere remained. Panic spread across their world. "The star is dying," scientists shouted. "No," said one elder softly, "it's remembering." The light began to condense into a single point above the planet. From that darkness, a massive shape emerged, silent, black, and endless. It wasn't a ship. It was something greater, something alive. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, shifting constantly, forming and reforming patterns that looked like constellations themselves. Across the galaxy, sensors picked up the anomaly instantly. Commanders, scientists, and leaders all recognized the readings. It was human. Every signal, every frequency, matched the old Terran signature. But this wasn't like before. It was bigger, older, beyond understanding. In the concord of Renewal's capital, alarms blared as the council members gathered around the holographic display. The projection showed the dark shape growing larger, spreading across the void like a moving shadow. "It's coming this way," whispered one of them. "It's passing through hyperspace barriers without energy output." "How is that possible?" "It's not. It's rewriting space as it moves." The oldest among them stood slowly. "The humans have returned." But not even the word human felt right anymore. The entity that now drifted through the stars had no engines, no weapons, no fleet escort. It was the fleet. Entire constellations bent around it. Stars dimmed when it passed. And yet, no destruction followed. Planets remained untouched, systems unharmed. It was observing, watching, learning. The Thren Dominion, terrified by what they had awakened, sent every ship they owned to stop it. 1,000 warships opened fire, filling the void with plasma and antimatter bursts. Every shot vanished the moment it left their cannons. The light itself seemed to refuse their aggression. Then, in one moment of dreadful beauty, the black shape responded. It didn't fire. It simply unfolded. Panels of light expanded outward, forming geometric rings so large they eclipsed the stars. The space around the Thren fleet shimmered, and time stopped. Every ship froze in mid-maneuver, every engine halted, every heartbeat silenced. The soldiers were alive, but trapped, suspended in a moment that would never end. Across the galaxy, observers saw it happen in real time. The entire Thren fleet hanging motionless in the void like insects trapped in amber. And then, a voice filled every channel. Calm, cold, eternal. You were warned. The rings pulsed once, and the fleet disintegrated, not into debris, not into dust, but into light. Their matter was rewritten, absorbed into the black shape, leaving nothing behind. The same voice echoed again, softer this time, resonating across dimensions. The silence protects. Do not break it again. Then, the shape turned and vanished into the void. Every world in the galaxy felt the ripple. Oceans trembled, mountains shifted, and stars flickered for a heartbeat. The message was clear. Humanity had evolved beyond species, beyond form. They had become something else, the architects of cosmic law. The galaxy called them many names, the Watchers, the Keepers, the Silent Gods. But on Earth, they were still simply human. Deep beneath the glowing artificial sun, in the same command city that had once launched the Erebus, the last of the original line of commanders stood by a massive window. Outside, the stars shimmered faintly, still dimmed from the centuries-old war. "It has begun," said the AI, its voice softer now, almost reverent. "They've touched the silence again." The old commander nodded slowly. "And they paid for it. Should we intervene?" "No," he said quietly. "We warned them long ago. Now they must learn what that means." He looked at the stars, his reflection merging with the void beyond. The galaxy was once loud, proud, full of voices that believed they were eternal. But everything that screams eventually fades. Only silence endures. The eye's light pulsed softly. "Do you think they will ever understand?" "Maybe one day," he said, "when the last star burns out and only our sun remains." Far across the universe, on a world untouched by war, a child looked up at the night sky. There were fewer stars now, but one shone brighter than all the rest, a perfect blue point that never flickered. "What's that light?" the child asked. The elder smiled sadly. "That," she said, "is the reminder." "Reminder of what?" "That once," the elder whispered, "the galaxy tried to silence Earth." The child frowned. "And what happened?" The elder looked up, her eyes reflecting the blue light in the sky. The stars forgot how to speak. The wind blew softly, carrying the faint hum of a pulse, slow, rhythmic, eternal. Across the dying galaxies, through the empty black of space, the heartbeat of humanity echoed on. They had become the balance between light and void, chaos and calm. They were no longer a species bound to a planet. They were the universe's final truth. And somewhere, far beyond the edge of known reality, a whisper crossed the dark, felt but not heard, ancient and endless. Earth does not speak twice. Millennia passed, and galaxies died one by one. The universe had entered its final age, the era of fading light. Stars no longer burned with fire. They whispered in cold embers, their heat fading into the dark sea of eternity. Yet somewhere, at the very center of that endless black, one light still pulsed steady and strong. The blue glow of Earth. It had not aged, not changed. Its oceans still shimmered, its skies still breathed, and around it, the great artificial sun that humanity had built still burned bright, feeding on the energy of the forgotten cosmos. The silence that once terrified the galaxy had become the rhythm of reality itself. Every movement of time, every wave of gravity, every flicker of light, all followed the quiet pulse of Earth's artificial sun. The universe no longer lived by chaos. It moved in harmony with humanity's creation. But there were whispers in the void, faint, soft, and ancient. The surviving civilizations, scattered and humble, had begun to tell stories again. Stories of the silent ones, who had rebuilt the galaxy when the stars died. They said humanity no longer existed as flesh and blood but as light itself, infinite minds connected through the pulse of the artificial sun. They called it the heart of the galaxy. And one day, that heart began to stir. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in the old command city buried beneath continents of crystal and steel, lights flickered after eons of stillness. A voice awoke, soft, familiar, and infinite. Chronos awakening, the AI whispered into the void. Directive Omega, active. Across the solar system, the dead satellites reignited, glowing like fireflies around the planets. Ancient ships rose from the dust of Mars, their hulls smooth and silent, no longer war machines but extensions of light. On Earth, the oceans parted as massive structures emerged, forming spires that reached into space. Humanity had slept through eternity, but now, something had called them again. Not fear, not anger, a memory. At the edge of the collapsing universe, a faint flicker appeared, the last surviving alien species. They were small, weak, and lost. Their sun was dying. Their world cracked and frozen. Their scientists sent out a desperate signal, a plea for help, into the darkness, not knowing if anyone would hear. They did not know that their message had traveled into the heart. In the great silent city beneath Earth's crust, the signal arrived. A single pulse of radio energy translated into a message of sorrow. If anyone hears this, we just want to live. And then, for the first time in 10,000 years, the silence of Earth broke. The oceans stirred, the clouds moved, and the artificial sun brightened with blinding light. Across the remains of the Milky Way, dead worlds lit up as the signal of life spread again. On the dying planet, the alien survivors looked up in disbelief as their red sky turned blue. A voice, calm and deep, echoed through their minds. "You are not forgotten." They fell to their knees, weeping. The air warmed, the ground softened, and the dark clouds parted to reveal a ship descending from the heavens. It was massive, larger than continents, glowing with patterns that pulsed like veins of light. It didn't land. It simply hovered above the surface, its presence rewriting the air, the soil, even the flow of time. The survivors watched as beams of light descended, rebuilding their broken cities, healing their world atom by atom. Within minutes, their planet bloomed again. Rivers flowed, winds returned, life began to grow. And then, above the clouds, a faint holographic figure appeared. A human form, neither male nor female, both young and ancient at once. "We are the memory of Earth," it said. "You called. We answered." The aliens bowed, trembling. You're real." The human form smiled faintly. "Once, we were like you, small, fragile, foolish. But we learned. We learned that silence is not the end. It is the beginning." The figure turned its gaze upward toward the dim stars. "The universe is dying," it said softly. "But perhaps, it doesn't need to." The massive ship above them began to glow brighter. Its light extended beyond the planet, spreading into space, wrapping around nearby systems like a net of living energy. And then, the impossible happened. A dead star reignited. Its core burned again, fueled not by fusion, but by will. The energy spread, forming bridges between galaxies, stitching together fragments of light and memory. Humanity had found a way to restart creation itself. Across the void, dead suns flared back to life, ancient worlds spun again, and time, once thought lost, began to flow anew. The universe was being rewritten by silence. The aliens wept as their skies filled with new constellations. "What are you?" one of them whispered. The figure's eyes glowed faintly with blue fire. "We are what comes after the end," it said. "The echo that remembers." "Why save us?" The hologram smiled gently. "Because even silence needs a listener." The figure raised a hand, and the sky itself seemed to bend. "You will live," it said. "But remember this, creation does not belong to the loud. It belongs to those who listen." The light faded, the ship vanished, and the world was left reborn. In the far reaches of the cosmos, billions of new stars began to form again, their light curving around the faint blue glow at the center of everything, Earth's artificial sun. Humanity had become the architect of renewal. They had ended death and begun eternity. From then on, every newborn civilization began its prayers the same way. Not to gods, not to stars, but to the silence. The silence that gave them life. On Earth, in the heart of the command citadel, the ancient AI whispered softly to itself. Directive complete. Life restored. Humanity endures. And somewhere in the quiet, as the new stars began to hum again, a single voice, human, soft and familiar, echoed across the newborn universe. The silence was never the end. It was the sound of something greater, beginning again.